I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's EGGBURT, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
On Monday, John talked about the fact that there was, some anti-Ashcroft organization that came out that said that he's not a professional engineer. Wasn't that what the deal was?
It was a complaint. We don't know who it was from, but someone who claims to not have any ties to a rival campaign, wink, wink, complained. Yes,
right. That there is the Office of professional registration. Is that what it is?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and essentially, professional registration means doctors, lawyers as well too. I guess that'd be the same thing, or is that separate with the bar? I don't really know, but doctors, people like that. And what's interesting was I mentioned the fact that my father was a civil engineer, graduated from Washington University, and I did not think he was registered as a professional engineer. I said that a couple times. The smartest woman in the world, and by the way, after the show, I did check out that site myself, and I'm still not exactly sure. And I believe this is the way it is, and I could call my son, but he probably won't answer the phone. My middle son, Blake, is a degreed electrical engineer from Mizzou, and also has a degree in computer science. And I do not believe, matter of fact, I know for a fact that the smartest woman in the world could not find him on the professional registration. But the interesting thing was, the smartest woman in the world found both my father and mother on their professional registration website. Is that bizarre or what?
Wow, that's awesome, Brad. For what qualifications?
My dad has 2 registrations. My dad is a professional engineer, civil engineer, and this goes back to 1954, which is when he would have probably, I'm trying to think. See, it was sort of weird because my dad started Washington University in 1941 and was drafted in 42 after the war broke out. And he never finished his first semester at Washington University, went through the war, and I believe he went back to WashU in 46, because his last day in the Army was Christmas Day, 1945, and he would have started his degree again back in the fall of 46, and I believe he graduated in 51. So somehow or another, it shows up in the professional registration as 1954. He's a professional engineer of civil engineering. And then a year later, he shows up as a registered land surveyor, which he was as well, too. He had the certification of being Missouri registered land surveyor, where he could go out and, survey. And he taught me how to survey. As a matter of fact, to this day, I still have some of his surveying equipment. Sort of the old school stuff. Everybody's using what they call the total stations now, but I can still do the old transit with the plumb bob and all that kind of stuff. And my mom, this is sort of curious because my mom shows a registration of a speech pathologist, which she was in 1984. Now, keep in mind, in 1984, my mom would have been, I'm trying to think, my mom would have been in her 60s, or she would have been like in her late 50s, early 60s. But my mom graduated from Washington University with a degree in speech, with speech pathology and speech and hearing, whatever they call it back then. I believe she graduated in 52, something like that, or 51, or I can't remember what it was. So why in the world she shows up registered in 84? I don't quite understand that, because my mom would have been born in, 2026? So 26 and you do the math on that. How many years is that? If you were born in 26, how old would you be in 1984?
You'd be 58.
Okay, so I did get that correct where I said late 50s, okay? I don't know why in the world she registered at 58. I mean, I can't remember.
But don't you think maybe at that point, if she was at Kirby Junior High at that point, don't you think that maybe another librarian running against her would have brought up the fact that maybe she wasn't actually registered with the state, Brad, and to defend herself in the campaign, maybe she filed that paperwork.
Those political races at schools can be really nasty. I mean, they can.
It wasn't going to be nasty, but what was effective is there were a whole bunch of yard signs out there, and those are the things that drive votes, Brad.
And you know what?
Go ahead, Brad.
Do you know what some people say? Even if they see a yard sign that's far,
I want to hear it.
Some people would say,
I don't care if he's pooped his pants.
Brad, I think we have solved real quick the issue of the Crystal Quade billboard. The woman who is the treasurer, the woman who's listed on there is a woman named, and I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's either McGinn. You suggested yesterday maybe it's McGinn or it's Maginn. She is the treasurer for a Democrat state representative named Deb Lavender, who represents like a liberal part of St. Louis County. So yes, it appears as though this group would be a progressive group that's probably not, I guess one of their issues is not editing or spell checking or, looking at their work closely out of respect to
I wonder how many other
their work
billboards
product.
up like this.
But yeah, so this woman, Katie Maginn, Maginn, is the treasurer for Deb Lavender, a very progressive state. If you don't know Deb Lavender, she looks like she might coach a softball team and drive a Subaru. But she represents a progressive area, and she's very popular among that progressive crowd.
John. Okay, I wonder how many more of these billboards are up and around. That can't be the only one. And once again, see, the whole crazy thing about it, the reason I took a picture of it and sent it to John was because I thought the billboard I go like, okay, I don't understand what the billboard's trying to do. First off, if you look at it, and once again, I'm not necessarily a print guy, but I've not done enough advertising in my day that sometimes like to this day, I'll go by a billboard and I think to myself, that billboard sucks because I don't have the best eyesight. If I can't read the headline of the billboard, then there's probably a lot of people like me who are like 20/40. I guess right with my goofy glasses I have to wear now. I think I'm like 20/45 or something like that. But the idea being a billboard should be very uncluttered, and it should essentially grab your attention and give you a singular idea about that billboard. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think the other critical element is you want some 1920s clip art.
which is so funny. It's got that.
I think you want one of the old-timey pointy things
right,
that makes you think about it. As you said yesterday, Brad, I love this line from you. That might say, hey, come here and get your brain sandwich.
Well, it looks like, at least I didn't mention red hot riblets, right?
Hey, we all like to get a little brain from Crystal Quade.
Well,
I know a brain sandwich.
But once again, the crazy thing about it is her name is in small print. It's like, once again, it's like, what are you selling? You're selling her. That should be bold, bold, bold. That should be in WordPress. That should be like what, H1? Was it which was?
Yeah, like a heading font. It's just amazing that Missouri Democrats aren't more successful in elections, Brad, with campaigns like this. Aren't you surprised that Democrats don't win more elections?
I don't get it.
I do know that if they want to win an election, they should go to augustelection.com, though, right, Brad?
augustelection.com. John's throwing me rainbows, and I'm hitting them out of the park, right? Yes, augustelection.com.
Just a hanging curveball.
Yeah.
Do you know my frustration with the number of baseball games that have been canceled, Brad, because of this rain?
What's that?
It's just absurd. Another game. Kids last night should have been playing in God's country, hitting the cutoff man, learning valuable lessons about teamwork and picking up your teammates when they're whining and crying. But no, we dealt with the rain yesterday, Brad.
Okay, here's you brought me. You say things, you take me on weird paths. Okay, this crazy weird crap that's going on with Major League Baseball on all these goofy, stupid uniforms. I saw a picture the other day, and here's the problem I have. This is branding 101, okay? If you look at the Cardinals uniform and you don't see two birds on the bat, you go like, okay, who's that, okay? So the other day, I see a picture of a guy, and the article's talking about how he's playing, in a major league, game and a whole bit, and I see the picture, and I think to myself, oh, is that his picture from when he was in the minor leagues? and you know what is on the front of his uniform?
Did it say the Lou?
No, in big letters it just says PGH. And I'm going like, what's PGH? Is that like...
What is that? I haven't seen this. What is this?
It's Pittsburgh. This was...
Oh, get out of here.
I swear to God, this was their throwback uniform. It just has...
we played them like last week. So were the Cardinals playing them?
I don't
did they
know.
do it over the weekend?
I'll see if I can find this picture and send it to you. It's just PG or PBA or PG, PGH, which I believe is the official airport, identifier for Pittsburgh. And I'm going like, okay, now you're destroying the branding of your team. It's to the point where at that point in time, if I have to look at it and go like, okay, is that like a minor league team, or is that like?
You know more about baseball than 99.9% of people. I can't stand the Cardinals jerseys that say the Lou.
Well, the whole thing's about, let's be honest, it's just an effort to just sell more stupid jerseys.
Yeah.
And look,
and why you would want to mess with an iconic logo like the birds on bat is beyond me.
Thank you, John. That's my point exactly. My point exactly is, you get all these crazy, weird, hey, we're going to do something different with the jerseys, and you destroy the branding of it. It would be like 3M saying, well, you know what? We're not going to have that that logo we've used for years. We're going to have THREE, dash EMM. That's going to be our new logo. And people go, what? 3M? What is that?
And that's also not carbon friendly, because when you talk about mining, Brad, you can't call them Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing anymore, because we know that mining is insensitive. You know what? In the next version of your yard sign song, Brad, and the Dua Lipa singers should point out the fact that yard signs are also not sustainable. If you advertise on radio, for example, a carbon zero, Brad's station is carbon zero. All of your stations are carbon zero. You are helping the environment. But yard signs are not sustainable, Brad.
They are not. Okay. Here's a story that, once again, you wish this happened more. This is a story. This is on Friday, last week, Washington, D.C. Okay, there's a guy. His name is Kendrick Flowers. And he decides he's going to carjack a van in the 2100 block of 11th Street Northwest, which, believe it or not, is a residential area, okay? And he gets out of another van, walks up to this van that he's going to carjack. He sees two guys sitting in the van. They're sitting on the street, 2100 block of 11th Street. He pulls out his gun, which they have a picture of here, which looks like, I don't know what kind of gun that is. I think it might be a Smith & Wesson.
It's a Tommy gun.
No, it's he's got a laser sight on. It's a 9mm, the whole kit. Oh, no, it's actually a 40 cal. Okay, he pulls out his gun, approaches the window of the van to carjack the van. The only problem is the van he's carjacking is an unmarked van from the U.S. Marshal Service.
Nice. Very good.
And there's two deputies in the van. He's pointing his gun at the deputy in the driver's side in an apparent attempt to carjack him. The deputy marshal pulled out his service firearm and fired approximately 4 times at Flowers through the window, according to a police criminal complaint. A second marshal from another vehicle also responded and fired his service weapon. Now, the only problem is they're saying there was at least 5 shots fired, at least 4 from the guy in the van, another guy who was also on the scene, who was also in another unmarked van, and fired a couple shots at least. But apparently the guy was only hit once, and it says he was hit in the face. But he was life-threatening injury. So, I mean, it wasn't like I guess it didn't hit him in the head or in the brain or anything like that. Probably hit him in the jaw or something like that. Okay. Now, the interesting part of this is, you know what these deputy marshals were actually doing? Which is
I guess they were casing another situation.
They were, and this is how the interesting story comes out, because they've denied this. This has been denied, but now it comes out that they were on a special mission. They were essentially protecting the home of Justice Sotomayor. They were They were in front of her house and essentially, doing a security detail in front of the Supreme Court Justice's house, and this guy comes up to carjack the van with the deputy marshals in it. I mean, like, is this the point where you go like, okay, this is crazy stuff. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's probably some criminal defense attorneys going like, oh my God, I'm salivating over this case. They're going to say it was entrapment. It was entrapment that they sat there.
They had the van running because they were trying to lure. It was like a bait car, right. Which, by the way, are still the best videos you've ever seen on YouTube.
Yes, what we're talking about.
If I started watching a bait tube video, I'm sure it would be like an alcoholic feels about drinking. Like, if I click on a bait car video, I can't stop watching them.
If you don't know what we're talking about, these are cars that the police department or wherever, FBI or something, like, they rig up so that they can be remotely controlled, and they put in hidden cameras, and these guys get in and steal them, and the cameras are like, it's like they have like the ultimate selfie shots of these guys, right, sitting behind the wheel as they just hotwired this car, and they're driving down the street, and then then all of a sudden, miraculously, the engine stops and they're surrounded by police officers with guns.
My favorite moment is the moment that they realize that something is wrong with the car, like the car stops accelerating or something stops working,
right.
And then they look down like, what's going on?
Yes.
It's tremendous. With the possible exception of Indian scam baiting videos, where you pull a Brad Hildebrand and actually talk to the phone scammer, I think bait car videos are my favorite.
Man, I tell you what. Okay, one other thing. You know what we missed? I think it was either yesterday or today. There, as a matter of fact, I won't say who sent this to me, but they sent me a social media ad that there's, and you probably, this is probably, here I'm going to talk about this, and John's probably say, well, that's number 42 on my list from yesterday. It's either yesterday or today, I don't remember which one, but they're having a big conference where anybody can show up, and essentially it's an open citizen thing for citizens of St. Louis to determine where the Rams money goes. Do you know?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't link to it, Brad, but I did see that. Yeah, and it was actually the top story on STLtoday.com today.
Right. Is it there? And
yeah, it's I just pulled up there. St. Louis Public Schools pushes for share of Rams settlement money.
Right, but the thing they talk about there's the article the other day had it featured that they had already narrowed it down to two things, and both of them were like, neither of them were like police protection in downtown St. Louis. Yeah. One of them was, I think, reparations. Wasn't reparations one of them? Don't they talk about that in the article?
Yeah, they do.
And the other ones is something about free child care. Isn't that what it is as well too?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, first off, what does this tell you? And the crazy thing about it is how many years ago has it been that the city and the county got this RAM settlement? Hasn't it been like 2 or 3 years ago now?
It's been years, yeah. It's
and
been multiple years.
And remember the story for a long time. It was sitting in a non-interest bearing account. Okay.
Yeah, which is where you definitely want to have your money. You don't even want to beat the cost of inflation. You want to have it accruing no money.
Right, and especially when you have $500 million. Wasn't it like after the attorneys, I think the settlement was like $750 million. Was like 750,
something like that.
750 million, and the attorneys took a quarter of it or a third of it, and that left $500 million, $500 million, and it's sitting there in a non-interest bearing account. Okay, John, if the CFO of pick a company, Boeing, Bayer,
Energizer,
Enterprise,
any of the companies that used to be here in St. Louis, like Purina, something like that.
Right. If the CFO, the chief financial officer, one day the CEO walks in and says, "Hey, somebody told me we've got $100 million sitting in a non-interest bearing account. What the hell is going on?" He would no longer be the CFO, right? He would be gone.
That's right. A version of John Combest would be writing a statement for the media that said that person is now looking forward to spending more time with their family.
Right, because of the fact that the corporations look at this kind of stuff and think, okay, we got this money. We got, you see the financial statements. John sees this all the time because he's a financial guy. You see, cash on hand, which essentially meaning that's somewhere parked in some kind of a banking institution or something like that. And you can bet your bottom dollar that it may not be generating, 4 or 5%, but at least it's generating something. And like you said, that was an excellent point. If it's generating 2%, at least it's keeping its value, well, I don't know with the rate inflation, but in other words, it's not losing value, so to speak. It's gaining a little bit of value, which may be washed out by the inflation factor. But you know what I'm saying, John?
I do. And real quick, as we wrap up the show, the good news is, speaking of the city, there was a ribbon cutting for new basketball courts. Did you see this, Brad? The mayor, Tashara Jones, was there. There's new basketball courts at Forest Park.
Don't get me going on all this stuff.
No, it's going to get – and actually the sad thing is, at the end of the story, they note that Freeman Bosley Jr. is actually suing Tashara Jones for gimmick infringement. Now, Tashara's not having all the kids go there at midnight for midnight basketball, but it is kind of gimmick infringement. She should get a gimmick attorney to look into that.
I'm gonna throw out a reference here, which I think you'll pick up on. But wouldn't you want to go to Tashara Jones' house and see if she's got a piano and see what color the keys are? You know what I'm talking about? Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you know my reference?
I don't know. Is that ebony and ivory? I don't get it.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. Remember.
I love the cliffhanger, Brad.
We'll talk about this tomorrow. Okay. We got to duck out earlier. I got to do a mercy mission with my youngest son. Actually, I've been spending a lot of time with him at hospitals, but that's actually sort of fun because him and I are bonding together, and we're having all sorts of great conversations. And it's interesting talking to someone who's less than half my age and hearing his political viewpoints, which if up to him, minimum wage would be $50 an hour, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, say goodbye, John.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?